What is good, YouTube, and welcome back to MKE MANIACI, and today we're going to be checking out WrestleMania's 10 craziest butterfly effects in WWE, man. So let's get it.
The idea that small and somewhat trivial events may ultimately result in major consequences. When it comes to pro wrestling, specifically WWE, there are numerous moments that have altered the trajectory of the company forever. And if they never happened, then it's hard to know and accurately assess the future direction of WWE. Join us now as WrestleMania looks at 10 of the craziest WWE butterfly effect moments. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Number 10, CM Punk doesn't walk out of WWE. In 2014, CM Punk shocked the wrestling world by walking out of WWE. He was frustrated with the system and he needed to escape the WWE bubble, as it was doing him no favors whatsoever. Punk's departure sent shockwaves throughout WWE, and before Punk left, he was said to be in one of the top matches at WrestleMania 30.
And okay, I can't hold my tongue anymore. The CM Punk, when he left WWE, yes, it was a shock. And I get some people feel a certain way, like, hey, he was just a crybaby. You know, he had a match with Triple H at WrestleMania. But Punk, you got to think about it. He was coming off of being WWE champion for over 400 days, carrying Monday Night Raw through one of the toughest, roughest, terrible time periods. He was the champion. He was what got people to tune back in. The pipe bomb promo from 2011. Damn it, he carried the company for a very long time, and all he wanted was to main event WrestleMania. I think Batista's return, that was the final nail in the straw, man. But can you imagine if Punk never left? Oh, if he got his WrestleMania main event
Against Triple H. Punk leaving meant that WWE had to drastically move around the card, and Punk leaving ultimately resulted in Daniel Bryan getting his much-deserved moment in the main event.
Which was nice,
Triple H
too.
would now face Bryan, with the winner being added to the Batista vs Randy Orton WWE title main event, and finally Bryan's planned match versus Sheamus would be cancelled completely. If Punk doesn't leave WWE in 2014 and decides to stick it out, does Bryan ever get his moment? Does Punk eventually leave the company even more disgruntled? Does Punk run himself into the ground to such an extent where he causes irreversible damage? It's a crazy alternative timeline. Number 9.
I feel like if Punk never would have left, no, Bryan wouldn't have got his WrestleMania moment, because I feel like the thing that would have kept Punk there is if Punk was in the main event of WrestleMania. I feel like, so Orton was the champion. I think Punk would have, I don't know. It's tough, because if Punk, so at that time, Randy Orton was WWE champion. Yeah, Orton was the WWE World Heavyweight Champion at that time. But Batista coming back, I don't know if Batista would have still came back. But either way, Punk would have main evented WrestleMania 30. And I think he would have stayed throughout the years. I feel like Punk would have just been on the road. He would have been full-time at least up until 2018. I feel like Punk would have had a pretty good run still. He still had a whole lot left in the tank. People don't acknowledge the fact that Punk was only in WWE for 8 years up to that point, like a little less than 8 years. So I feel like Punk would have had a lot left in the tank, at least for another 7, at least up until 2020, maybe. I'll say 2020. He probably would have started slowing down a little bit, but yeah, I think Punk would have more championships, babyface turn, heel turn, babyface turn, heel turn. Yeah, Punk would have had a great run.
Where he causes irreversible damage. It's a crazy alternative timeline. Number 9, the planned finish at WrestleMania 30 goes ahead. The Divas title was defended for the first time at WrestleMania 30 when AJ Lee defended the title in a multi-women match. The original scripted finish was supposed to see AJ make Naomi tap out by cheating. It was reported that AJ would grab Naomi's hand and make Naomi tap out in that manner. This would have then allowed the feud to continue and for WWE to build to a huge AJ vs Naomi pay-per-view match. The issue was that Naomi ended up actually tapping with her free hand, meaning that it looked like a legitimate win. Naomi had no legitimate reason to seek a rematch, and as a result, this would have had a knock-on effect that would alter the women's division forever.
So Naomi pretty much played herself and played her, wow.
Paige would then be called up to the main roster and would be booked to instantly defeat AJ on Raw after WrestleMania. Additionally, now that Paige was on the main roster, a planned Paige vs Charlotte Flair feud in NXT was cancelled, and instead Flair would take on Natalya. This all-time classic NXT match resulted in Flair gaining a mass surge of momentum, and this was a match that propelled her into the contention for being one of the strongest female stars in the company.
So now this is the question of, if none of that happened, if we went along with the AJ and Naomi thing, would we have ever got a women's evolution? Because honestly, there's different pinpoints on the board. You got Charlotte Flair, of course, Paige doing her thing, AJ Lee just being incredible, and I feel like this all pretty much led up to the women's evolution. I feel like we would have eventually got it, but we probably wouldn't have got it that fast.
Therefore, if the botch didn't go down at WrestleMania 30, Paige isn't called up, Flair doesn't receive her breakout moment, and ultimately, this could have hindered the presentation of the women's division for many years to come. Number 8, Mark Henry breaks the streak.
WrestleMania 22.
There have been countless times over the years where WWE have made plans to end the streak. Even though the legendary streak was eventually conquered by Brock Lesnar in 2014, WWE put the wheels in motion for numerous wrestlers to get a huge boost by defeating The Undertaker.
And that was a special thing of WrestleMania every year of who's gonna face Undertaker, who could possibly break the streak, man.
And in 2006, it looked like it was going to be Mark Henry. According to WWE executive Bruce Pritchard on his podcast, WWE were going to proceed with Henry breaking the streak. However, as WWE got closer to WrestleMania 22, Vince McMahon got cold feet. Now, if Vince followed through on this move, then it would have changed everything. Henry would have emerged as WWE's top heel at the time, where he probably wasn't ready for the role. The Undertaker's matches against the likes of Shawn Michaels, CM Punk, and eventually Brock Lesnar wouldn't have had the streak element attached, and there's no telling if these matches would have even taken place if the streak was no longer a marketing tool.
That is interesting. That is very interesting. Now, I did hear that rumor Mark Henry was supposed to end it at WrestleMania 22, and at that time, I remember when I was watching, Mark Henry was the most intimidating guy on the roster. When Mark Henry came in, he injured Batista in that steel cage. Listen, there was nothing at all stopping Mark Henry. And it would have been very believable for Mark Henry to end the WrestleMania streak. In that casket match, it would have been incredibly believable, man. But can you imagine? We wouldn't have got Undertaker and HBK. Would The Undertaker have retired earlier? Maybe. I don't know.
Number 7, Finn Balor doesn't get injured.
Universal title.
The WWE had grand plans for the launch of the Universal title in 2016. They would make Finn Balor the inaugural champion, and the idea was that Balor would be the face of Raw. The plan was for Balor to enter into a feud with Kevin Owens, and then the belief was that Balor would be thrown into the middle of a red-hot Owens and Chris Jericho storyline. Obviously, Balor got hurt and he was subsequently forced to surrender the title after a lousy 24 hours. But what would have happened if Balor didn't get injured? How would he have been presented? If Balor doesn't get hurt, Owens never becomes Universal Champion a few weeks later, and this also means that Goldberg likely doesn't win the title in early 2017. It would only be logical that Balor walks into WrestleMania 30 as Universal Champion against a top heel on Raw, and this leads to Goldberg and Brock Lesnar finishing their story without the Universal title attached to it.
And that would have been way better. Brock and Goldberg, just a one-on-one regular match, WrestleMania 33. As for Finn, I would have loved to see Finn Balor versus Jericho versus Owens in a triple threat match at WrestleMania 33. We still can do Seth and Triple H. But yeah, Balor getting injured was so unfortunate because I was so happy. It felt like a new era at that time in 2016 when Balor, one that was qualifying for that championship in that match against Seth at SummerSlam, and it just felt so refreshing. And damn it, yeah, Goldberg would have never won this championship. He never would have won it.
Number 6, Kevin Owens doesn't drop the Universal title. Following Finn Balor's unfortunate injury, the story between Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens dominated Raw. The storyline received critical acclaim as fans loved it, and the two had electric chemistry. Ultimately, the planned payoff to the storyline was Jericho challenging Owens for the Universal title, and this is something fans were actively pushing for. Unfortunately, overnight this changed. The plans went from Jericho versus Owens for the Universal title in the main event of WrestleMania 33 to the two now competing for the US title. Speaking on Busted Open Radio, this is what Jericho had to say regarding the bold booking move from WWE and why it influenced him to leave the company.
I do feel like, as far as the Jericho Owens U.S. title match, I heard Vince was very opinionated on that match. He didn't really care for it. I don't know why Jericho has got the worst end of the deal throughout his time in WWE. I mean, think about it. Jericho's never won a Royal Rumble. And this right here, like, not even trusting Jericho. He couldn't even close out WrestleMania 28. I get it, Rock and Cena, but damn it, Jericho and Punk, that's money right there. It's some things about Jericho that, although he was incredible in the ring, he's a legend. He's still not even in a Hall of Fame, which is crazy. But he's a legend. I just feel like there was always some type of vendetta against Jericho. That's just my opinion. That's just like one of the conspiracies that I think between Chris Jericho and Christian. Christian is another one I feel like just is a vendetta against him for some reason.
If WWE gave Jericho the match everyone wanted, then there's no doubt about it, Jericho doesn't leave WWE. Additionally, we all know that this booking move influenced Jericho to sign for AEW, and with AEW unable to attract the multi-time former WWE World Champion, is the startup of AEW such a monumental success?
I think the start of AEW would have still been a success because it was an alternative to the WWE. Whether Jericho was there or not, I feel like it would have still been a success, but I do feel if Jericho never would have left WWE, he would have been in the WWE Hall of Fame right now.
It's a very interesting theory to think about. Number 5, John Cena does a rap for Stephanie McMahon.
Oh, he would have been fired. Cena said this story many a times. He would have been fired. He was on a list of people to get up out of here. He was a part of the next batch of releases, and he rapped on the bus. Stephanie heard it, and the rest is history. But he would have been gone. We never would have had John Cena.
Man, imagine a world in which John Cena is released in 2002. Well, it actually almost happened. After a strong start to his WWE career, Cena was lingering around with nothing to do. Cena was on the chopping block, and according to Cena, it seemed inevitable that he was going to be cut. However, this would all change when Stephanie McMahon overheard Cena freestyling, and when McMahon asked Cena if he would be interested in bringing the character to TV, the rest was history. Cena would get so immensely over with the character that just a few days later, they would make the call to make Cena the face of the entire company. What would have happened if McMahon had never heard Cena rap? Well, the release would have gone ahead and WWE would never find their next top guy.
Okay, Batista would have been
Who would have taken on Cena's role as the next face of the company, and who would have carried the WWE throughout the PG era?
And that's just insane to think of a world in WWE without John Cena. Like, insane to think of that. We would have never, bro, Cena is one of those, not only is he a needle mover, but if Cena wasn't there to get them through the ruthless aggression era, I'm talking, this is a time when The Rock left, Stone Cold left. They needed new stars. Undertaker was getting older. They needed new stars. Maybe Randy Orton would have, I don't know. Batista and his push only lasted 4 or 5 years until he left the company and eventually came back and left again. But Cena's been that constant. Cena's been that guy. Like, I don't think WWE even accelerates to the next level. They would have went through some very dark times between the years of at least 2004 to who knows when. That
one rap was monumental in Cena's entire WWE career. Number 4, Mustafa Ali never gets hurt. An unfortunate injury to Mustafa Ali in 2019 changed the career of Kofi Kingston forever. Kingston would replace Ali in the annual Elimination Chamber match, and Kingston's performance ignited such a positive fan response towards him that WWE had no choice but to deliver a Kingston storyline which would see him challenge for the WWE title at WrestleMania 35. It's believed that the original plans for WrestleMania 35 were Daniel Bryan versus Kevin Owens for the WWE title, and it's never been made clear what exactly WWE had in store when it came to Kingston. If Ali never got hurt, then Kingston is never pushed into the main event scene, and this also means that the infamous Brock Lesnar squash match never goes down. It's truly unbelievable to think how an injury to a wrestler can alter the trajectory of WWE history.
So you mean to tell me if Mustafa Ali never got injured, Kevin Owens probably would have won the WWE Championship at WrestleMania? Now I'm happy now my boy Kofi won at WrestleMania 35. That was an incredible moment. But that would have been a great moment as well for Owens to win the WWE title at WrestleMania. And that would have been a fire match, Owens and Bryan. But then would this have led to Kevin Owens versus Brock Lesnar? And would Kevin Owens have gotten squashed? I don't think Owens would have got it squashed the way Kofi got squashed. I don't know. It's a lot. It's a lot.
Number 3, Scott Hall and Kevin Nash re-sign in 1996.
WCW wouldn't have took off to the next level. They just would have had Goldberg and Booker T. Which, great talent, but NWO would have never existed.
In 1996, two of WWE's top stars, Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, decided to leave the company. The two were happy to stay in WWE, yet WCW were offering a lucrative contract with guaranteed money for less dates, so it was no-brainer as far as they were concerned. The two leaving and signing for WCW would lead to the formation of the NWO alongside Hulk Hogan, and this would result in WCW becoming the hottest pro wrestling company in North America. What would have happened if Hall and Nash didn't jump ship? The NWO would have never existed and WCW would have never had their major boom. Also, if WCW remained in the same established position, then WWE would have been less inclined to introduce an edgier product and usher in the Attitude Era.
And that's a huge point that people forget. You could really date the Attitude Era and thank Kevin Nash and Scott Hall. Because if they never left and WCW ratings didn't go high through the freaking roof because of Hulk Hogan and them and the NWO, we never get the Attitude Era. We stay in a cartoony WWF without the Attitude. We don't get Raw's War. We don't get any of that because WWE wouldn't see WCW as competition. That's so crazy to think about that. The Attitude Era would have never been born. We probably would have never had Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock be who they are. Triple H probably would have still been Hunter Hearst Helmsley. Well, he would have still been Triple H, but he wouldn't have been the game Triple H. We wouldn't have got the beard Stone Cold. We wouldn't have got the People's Champ The Rock. We wouldn't have got none of that if Hall and Nash decided to stay in WWE. That's crazy.
Additionally, if Hall and Nash re-signed with WWE in 96, then the infamous curtain call never goes down. If the curtain call doesn't happen, Triple H wins the annual King of the Ring, and Stone Cold Steve Austin never delivers the iconic
promo.
Austin 316 promo. This is an alternative timeline that would have had many twists and turns, and it would ultimately alter the WWE we know today. Number 2, Bret Hart doesn't jump ship to WCW. What would have happened if Bret Hart didn't jump ship to WCW in 97? Well, the almost obvious thing is that the Montreal Screwjob would have been avoided. The Montreal Screwjob is one of the most famous real-life events in pro wrestling history, and with this kayfabe-shattering event never taking place, where does this lead the world of kayfabe heading into the Attitude Era? Hart failing to jump ship to WCW in 97 also results in Hart being a key figure into WWE in the 2000s. Naturally, this would mean that Hart never wrestles Goldberg at 99.
He never would have got injured. He never would have had that career-ending injury. And, I believe it said 20 years. It was a 20-year contract. I think he signed that back in, 96, I want to say. It would have led him into 2016. Whether it would have been an in-ring participant or not, Hart was in great shape. Bret Hart was in great shape and was the perfect person to take WWE into the 2000s. Yo, can you imagine Kurt Angle and Bret Hart one-on-one? The matches that we could have seen, or would Kurt Angle even still been that freaking... Yo, it's so many little things that could have,
WWE in the 2000s. Naturally, this would mean that Hart never wrestles Goldberg at 99 Starrcade event, and ultimately would have never had to retire. Hart would have then been able to have dream matches against the likes of Eddie Guerrero and Kurt Angle under the WWE banner. Hart himself would discuss how his career would have panned out, and during this incredible interview with Fightful, Hart predicts that he would have taken Pat Patterson's job in WWE. I was going to work in some facet of The Office. I was actually under, if my memory serves me right, I think I was going to take Pat Patterson's job and work with the matches. Another notable butterfly effect in Hart leaving for WCW in 97.
The Vince McMahon character would have never been born. Vince would have probably still been a commentator.
Was the creation of the Mr. McMahon character. The evil Mr. McMahon character would have become a central antagonist on WWE TV following Survivor Series, so if Hart stays in the company in 97, does the Mr. McMahon character become a pivotal player on screen? If this never happens, this means that the McMahon versus Stone Cold rivalry that was arguably one of the reasons for WWE's boom period never even occurs. And number 1, the Day 1 pay-per-view. WWE's first and only Day 1 pay-per-view was about to be headlined by Roman Reigns vs Brock Lesnar for the Universal title. According to reports at the time, the creative plans were for Lesnar to win the matchup and put a definitive end to Reigns' run as champion. Over the Raw brand, the multi-man WWE title match was set to feature Seth Rollins coming out on top and becoming the new WWE champion. When it was announced that Reigns had tested positive for COVID-19, this forced WWE to change the plans. Lesnar would be added to the title match and would end up winning the respective title, and WWE moved forward with a title versus title match between Lesnar and Reigns for the top billed match at WrestleMania 38. If Reigns didn't get COVID in 2022, then what exactly does the main event scene in WWE look like heading into WrestleMania 38? There's no way WWE will book a Reigns vs Lesnar match again for WrestleMania, so where does this leave two of WWE's biggest stars?
That is the craziest thing.
So if Rollins walks into WrestleMania 38 as WWE champion, does he still face a returning Cody Rhodes, or does Rhodes take on a different opponent? Another key butterfly effect moment here is Biggie. Biggie was WWE champion coming into the show, and if Rollins wins the title, do WWE commit to booking a feud between Biggie and Rollins for the title heading into WrestleMania 38? If this is the case, then this means that Biggie doesn't go back to SmackDown and likely wouldn't have found himself in the infamous match which resulted in him breaking his neck.
Yo, and that is, oh my gosh, that's a crazy butterfly effect. If all that would have been avoided, Big E would probably still be wrestling right now. That is insane.
Crazy to think about, right? What do you guys think of these alternative realities?
It's fun these type of videos are fun because it's like one little kink in the universe and everything is all out of whack. We don't get a lot of stuff. We don't get Raw's War. We don't get John Cena. It's so much, man. And it's just things like that, man. Like these are the type of videos I like. These are the type of videos I like, man. And just the things that you think about, like if this happened and that would have happened, this wouldn't have happened. But anyway, man, 10 craziest butterfly effects in the WWE. Link down below will lead you right to this video for you to check it out in its entirety with no interruptions. If you are new to the channel and want more wrestling related content, hit that subscribe button for me. And I'll see you on the next video. It's your boy MKE MANIACI. I'm out.